Hello guys, welcome to another interview with one of our serious traders, this time with Xavier from New York, USA. Xavier, really happy to have you here. You're another trader that is being interviewed by FTMO, so you tell me, how does it feel like?
Real quick, I just want to say, thank you for having me. I've seen ton of the interviews, so being here is just like it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but it's amazing. But I feel proud and I feel happy because this is something that I've been aiming for a long time. And what it took to get here, it was lots of trials and tribulations. You know what I'm saying? But definitely to be at the position that I am right now, I'm definitely blessed and grateful because not everybody could say that you're FTMO funded by a company and you're able to make the money that you can make in any given day. So I just feel grateful and blessed, honestly.
All right, it's always nice. All right, so tell us, how did you get the trading? How did you find out about FTMO? Tell us a bit more about your trading story.
Yeah, for sure. So I started trading. I know the exact date, April 24th of 2020.
Oh, okay.
And that was right when the whole thing with the world was happening, and we couldn't really go much outside. So I started trading there with a multi-level marketing company. And I learned a lot about the fundamentals about trading, other things as well. But that's pretty much where I got a lot of the base work from. And then after about a year and some change about being there, and tons of mistakes, blown accounts, psychological and emotional damage when it came to the trading aspect, I definitely realized that it was a time for me to just kind of keep on moving and kind of do my own thing and grow from that point. And so from there, I started just trading more, focusing more on the skill set, focusing more on the psychological aspect when it comes to trade, and making sure that I myself am in check before I even think about entering a trade. And when it came to FTMO, a good friend and mentor of mine, his name is Trey with John. He lives out in Portland, USA. He's the one that specifically told me more about what FTMO was. Through social media, you kind of hear about it and stuff like that. But being someone who's new to the whole Forex niche, I just wasn't aware, and I just didn't know what was right and everything. So once he explained to me, and once he pretty much shared his vision with it, I was like, yeah, this I have to do. And ever since that point, I prepared for it. I prepared for it day in and day out. At the time, I didn't have no money in my actual account, so I was working at an after school program. I was doing Uber Eats in the morning and the nighttime, and driving, and I was doing that for about 3 to 4 months straight, so that I could actually save up money of my 6 months of expenses to make sure that when I am trading, I'm not trading to make money. Like I'm not forced to make money because of bills and expenses. I'm trading because I have an end goal of what I want to actually do with it. So once I reached that point, I said, okay, I'm gonna take this this I don't want to say bet, but I want to take this confident bet on myself based upon all the working that I've done for the last 6 months to save up for the next 6 months. All the back testing, all the practicing, all the studying, the strategizing that I did while I was working in the night times. Like, those are the hours that people don't see. So once it was time to actually, take the actual challenge, I had the $1,100 set to the side, and January 1st is when I took that decision, and it's paid off since then, 100%.
Okay, wow. So you certainly have been through a lot before you actually started earning.
Yeah, I started being profitable. Yeah.
Okay, well, you mentioned the psychological point of view, which really caught my interest. So
Yeah.
So what really, how do you evaluate whether you are ready to really enter a trade from the psychological point of view?
Yeah. So when I realized that I was back testing in the market, the way that I back test was, okay, I'm gonna take the same maybe 1 or 2 pairs at the same time. For me, it's New York session, so for me, I traded in between 8 and 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if I would get upset at a trade that I didn't even really take, but I was upset at the fact that it hit stop loss, or I was upset that it didn't run, it just didn't do what I wanted to do, then I knew that I wasn't ready. The way that I understood my psychology was, if if I'm gonna get mad about a demo trade that I didn't take, about it not going my way, then how am I gonna react to it if it's my live account? How am I gonna react to it if it's my actual challenge verification, or even when I get the actual live account of an FTMO account? How am I gonna react to it? So based upon how I felt, I'll grab a journal, or I'll write down in my notes application on my phone or on my laptop, and I would write how I feel before I take the trade. I would write how I feel after I take the trade, and I would write how I feel before, during, and after. So before, during, and after the trade, I would just keep note of that and keep myself in check, because I don't, I want to make sure that I'm in the best position to actually take the challenge, not be emotional. Because the second you become emotional with your money, that's the second that you're no longer trading at that point. At that point, you're gambling. And so once I really realized that was when I was like, okay, cool. Once I've leveled that self-mastery, I was like, okay, now is actually time to take the challenge and actually see where this can take me. But I definitely had to make sure that all of those, all of that was in check within myself before I even go ahead and, risk my own money or risk someone else's money within the markets.
Okay, so you really try your best to divide emotion away from trading, away from money.
Exactly. And not only that, but also like accepting the risk. Accepting the risk that, like, when I say accepting the risk, I mean, regardless of what the outcome is, with the FTMO challenge, take that as a learning experience, as a learning opportunity, whatever. I realized there was a point where I was trading and I was reflecting on the first on the first trade that I took, and I was like, it was probably like 1 o'clock in the morning. For whatever reason, I couldn't sleep, and I was like, Xavier, whatever the outcome is, you did great. You did everything that you could do to get to this point, and just be proud of yourself, and just take this experience as a learning experience for what comes next, within my journey. So I definitely had to accept the risk, because if I didn't accept the risk, then who knows what would happen if, God forbid, I failed the challenge, right? How would I feel if I never accepted the risk, or I wasn't emotionally disconnected from the money?
Okay, so if I understand this correctly, before you went to the FTMO challenge, or before you even enter a trade, you gotta make yourself comfortable, with the thought that it may not go well.
Of course, because like the way that I looked at it was, there was a point in my journey where I made money really, really quick. There was a point where I made $10,000 in 1 week. This was during the U.S. elections. And I told myself,
so you had a volatility in your favor.
Yeah, the volatility was insane.
Yeah, I see.
And I told myself, Friday, I'm not gonna trade. What I did, my friend called me. He was like, Xavier, are you trading today? I said, nope. And then I had the charts open, and I was looking at Euro USD, and I took the trade. I was in drawdown, and at that point, I was kind of like panicking, because at that point, I didn't really have a set strategy. I didn't have no trading. I didn't have my own trading rules. And so I was panicking, and my heart was beating like crazy. And I took another entry, and it just draw down. So from being at about $11,000 in equity, I was left with about $900. And every single day after that, the following week, I was losing 1% a day, because at that point, like my mind wasn't in it. I wasn't like me as a person, I wasn't in it with the trading, but I was still forcing myself to trade. And so me doing that, I was doing more harm to myself than I was doing any good. So at that point, I realized that I never want to feel that way ever again. You know what I'm saying? I never want to feel that way ever again. And so ever since then, I fallen into like a big trading depression. I wasn't trading for a couple of months. And it was a big self-finding moment, and once I took the time out to actually learn and study, and definitely learn from other traders out there. There was one point where I was back testing, and I finally found that aha moment, and that's when everything clicked for me.
Okay. Yeah. I see. Well, you said that you like to learn from the other traders out there, so that brings me to the question. So I assume you have watched some of their interviews with other FTMO traders, right?
For sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Is there any particular, some particular, just something that you saw from the interview that really, made you say like, oh wow, yeah, this is like really something that you should incorporate in your trading as well. Such sort
I'm
of
gonna be
point.
yeah. I'm gonna be very honest. It was a Lambo Raoul's video.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. One like him being right now 23 years old. I'm 20. I turned 21 in June, and so kind of like the perspective is different. It's kind of like, wow, like if he can do that at that age, given that he started trading much younger than I did. But if he can get to that point, it's like I know that I can as well. So when I was watching that, I loved how, and this is a big reason why I bring up psychology as well, because him being the age that he was when he made that video, one of his big, like one of the big topics in that interview that I recall was the way he held himself up when it came to the topic of psychology, and just being psychologically, mind within yourself. And so that was the biggest thing that I took about that interview, because I believe it was about an hour long. But not
Yeah, it
only
was a
that,
long one.
he made looking at the charts very simple. Even some of his own videos on his YouTube page, he makes looking at charts very simple, very technical, and that's very very similar to how I trade. I'm very technical when it comes to the charts, and if I don't really see what it is that I want to see, then I'm not really gonna go ahead and take a trade. I'm always looking for the highest probability setup when it came to it. And if Lambo Raul ever watches this video, I will say this one thing right now: I am going for that 100K payout. That's all I'm gonna say, man.
Nice one. All right, well, that brings us to trading. So you said you're trading mainly with technical analysis, right?
Yep, for sure.
Okay, so you're using price action, or how exactly do you determine, how to trade?
Yeah, so a lot of it is Fibonacci retracements. Price action. I'm looking for like candle confirmations. I'm looking at overall structure within the markets, and also just correlating structure. So correlating the higher time frames with the smaller time frames, and usually, I tend to my stop loss are usually based off of lower time frame structure, and my reward is based off of the higher time frame structures. And that's pretty much how I base my setups off of a lot, just to get that nice risk to reward ratio. But my minimum is usually 1 to 3. 1 to 3 risk to reward. That's usually what I always aim for. If there's room for more, I'll leave it open. But as soon as 1 to 3 risk to reward is met, I usually leave my stops in profit. And if for whatever reason the market isn't really giving me a reason to close out my trade, then I'm not closing it out. And I have a perfect example off of the second trade that I took in phase 1. That was the clean setup, man. So definitely.
All right, good. So that brings me to questions. So you're using a lot of time frames, right, to define, when to exactly enter the position. Are you using any indicators whatsoever?
Not so much. So the only indicators that I have on my charts are moving averages.
Okay, so MACD, I assume.
So I have an 8 EMA, and I have a 21 moving average, or sometimes I also like the 66 moving average. And so I kind of use the whole MA cross kind of thing as a big indication of a transition in the market for me. But that's just kind of like extra confirmation for me,
Yeah, I see. Well, as I was checking your trades from your FTMO account, I saw that you like the Dow Jones a lot. At least that's where you made the most money. So I wanted to ask, do you also consider fundamentals, the news releases in your strategy?
So I'm gonna be honest. So in college, I'm an economics major. So for a long
you're right now you're studying as well, right?
Yeah, I'm studying. I'm in college as well. So I transferred. I was doing accounting and finance, and now I'm doing this economy major. And for a long time, I put aside the fundamentals, but especially where we're at right now, and what's going on. So, for example, like yesterday, the federal government raised the interest rates. Everything that's happening in the world, and so gas is going up. If you go on social media, that's what everyone's talking about, is the price of gas in the U.S. And so the more that I notice that, and the more I kind of notice how that affects the market, like right now, I'm not gonna say, I use fundamental analysis, but I do look at it. I do keep in mind of it. And before I trade, I always have to look at my Forex Factory or my FX books to see what the economical news is for the day or for the week or for the month. And so it's not something that I heavily rely on, but it's something that I keep in the back of my mind. So if there is news, happening, I always attempt to match it with my technicals.
Okay.
And they're just, and then from there, just pretty much go with the overall setup that I'm going with.
I see.
But with Dow Jones, I'm still very technical. Like I want to say like 80% technical, like 20% fundamental.
All right. One thing I wanted to ask about. So you were mentioning your trading during the presidential election in the U.S. And the increased volatility. So are you the type of trader that really enjoys high volatility, high swings, or do you just look for like more like calm waters of trading?
At the time, which was what year? I believe that was
2020.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah,
2020. Yeah, 2020. Yeah, I had to make sure it was November. I believe it was November.
Oh yeah, that would sound right. Yeah.
So back then, yes, I love volatility, loved it. I would love also NFP, loved it. It was
may
either
seem as a quick money, right?
It was either you make tons of money or blown account on NFP Friday. So at the time, yes, but I feel like every new trader, love they love it because that's what calls their attention. But at the same time, like I said, after that experience of losing that much money within a week, I took a big step back, and so now I've learned to just appreciate the calm waters. So one thing that I used to do is I used to back test on slower pairs, so like AUD USD, NZD USD, so I could really be comfortable with seeing market structure. And then from there, that was what pretty much built up my tolerance to get to US 30. I'm not gonna say I'm not like Q Banks with US 30, but I do see a lot of the setups, and when I do take a setup, it's because I'm 100% like comfortable with them.
Okay. Do you see any correlation, or do you use any correlation with US 30? Let's say to gold, right? The correlation between gold and US 30. Do you take advantages of that?
So I've thought about it. I've definitely thought about it. I have a friend that we're on the phone a lot. His name is Julio, and he loves gold. And so, every time I'm looking for a short on US 30, he's looking for a buy. He's looking for buys on gold. And so he's been taking a lot of advantage of the buys on gold, and I've stuck with my US 30. But I don't really. I've dabbled on gold before, but I usually don't stray out of gold, GBP USD. GJ here and then. But I usually don't stray out of those three pairs.
All right, I see. So, Xavier, let's now take a look at the trading platform. You prepared, I can see a GBP USD. So, you mentioned that you had some good trade in the FTMO challenge, right? Is that what you show? All right, well, let's see what it was.
Yeah, let's get into it. So, I'm going to head back to January 4th. That was the second day of my phase 1 challenge and the setup that I actually took. So we're going to be right about here. And so in this, we're already seeing a couple of things, right? So if we just zoom out a little bit, we see that we was in a huge downtrend, right? And from there, it broke structure, right? So pretty much these are a level of interest that I'm already looking at, right? So this level right here is one that I'm already looking at. Because we're right now transitioning from this downtrend that it was in. It broke structure, right? So it took out all of these previous lower highs, right? We was pretty much consistent with these lows, right? So a lower low was not created within this level. So this leads me to believe that we have some form of seller's exhaustion within this area, and so potentially we could be looking at an area where there's transitioning within the market. So within this point, this whole like December area, I wasn't really trading, right? Holidays, looking to be with the family. But when I did start the challenge, I already knew that by this point, I started in January 1st. By this point, we was already transitioning into a full-blown uptrend. So already my bias in mind is, okay, I'm looking for buys. I'm looking for buys. I don't want to take advantage of any of the counter trends. I'm looking for buys. And so with that being said, with that already in mind, I already know what is it that I'm pretty much looking for. So there's already a couple of areas of interest that I'm already just going to be marking off. right? Just simple market structure, break and retest certain levels. And then from here, just break it down into lower time frames, right? So given how I trade and the time frame and the times that I do trade in, I know that I'm trading at 8 o'clock in the morning. So let's go back down one more time frame and go down to the 1 hour time frame and just go back to this days.
So let me just jump in. So you said you're trading mainly the New York session, right?
Yep, New York session, correct.
That suits you the best. Okay. Could you find like any particular reason? Of course, considering that you live in New York, are there any other advantages why you pick the US and why?
Yeah. So yeah, of course. So I mean, New York session. Well, aside from just the benefit of just overall timing, there tends to be just a lot of good movements that usually happen after London session that I really like to take advantage of. Either before the 9:30 New York Stock Exchange open, or after, right? It just moves really, really smooth. I don't know. I just like the way that it moves. Catching 30, 40 pips and just catching that crossover between New York and London is pretty much my bread and butter within there. And so that's pretty much how I kind of base my setups off of a lot. So I usually have my charts already marked up, and then come the following morning, I usually already know what it is that I'm looking for.
All right. Well, let's get back to it.
Yeah, let's get back to it, right? So within this area, we're still, making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, right? So structure really isn't being broken. So January 4th is where we're at right here. So we're pretty much in this area. And like I said, I'm just following structure, just, marking up areas of demand or of supply. And so me looking at this, I'm waking up the next day and I'm looking at this right here. So at this point, from 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning, we have a bullish engulfing candle. So this candle had engulfed over the previous candle. So I really like this, and the fact that we have this just pretty much tells me that, okay, buyers are still in control of the market. So I'm just going to go ahead and just mark this area off right there. Let me make this, let's say, green. And we're going to go another time frame down. I'm going to actually use the replay tool so that we could just stay within this area. We're going to go another time frame down, right? And once again, we have another one of these candle formations. I don't really look at dojis as much of an indicator. So I usually tend to delete this area right here. I don't really look at this doji as much confirmation for me at all. I tend to put the bearish and the bullish engulfing candle together and kind of, what is that? It's still showing me that buyers are still in control of the market. I also go down another time frame. I'm getting the same story. So at this point, my trade was something along the lines of entering past this candle. I believe I had somewhat of a 12 or 13 pip stop loss. I believe it was something along those lines. And my take profit, if memory serves me right, I definitely left more pips on the table, but it was something around 45, 49, 50-ish pips. We could double check in the account metrics right now. But this is pretty much what my setup was, right? And so even if I was to place the Fibonacci from here, place my fibs from this low point to this high point, it pretty much had aligned up with all of the confluence that I'm looking for in the trade, all the confirmations that I'm looking for, which is a 61.8% price reversal zone. I got numerous candle confirmations and numerous time frames, not just the 15, not just the 30, even the 1 hour. We could break it down to the 5-minute time frame and even see more confirmations, right? I put my stop loss right below the lows within the market, right? Because I knew that at that point, I believe I did have a 12 pip stop loss. I believe at that point, for me, if price was to go below this area, then that's what I'm accepting, right? That's the amount of space that I'm giving my trade to accept that right now, this bullish move right now might not be ready. But given everything that I'm seeing, given everything that I'm getting from the market, I knew that this bullish move was definitely more than ready to happen. And so I don't rush any trade. I make sure that the market tells me, it's pretty much like a story being given to me, right? As long as I'm reading it and as long as it's making sense, then I know how to act. If for whatever reason I doubt something or I'm confused about something, then at that point I'm not gonna take the trade. So
okay, so you're really waiting for a confluence of signals, right, before you actually enter the position. So you mentioned the higher lows and higher highs. That itself wouldn't be enough for you to really enter the position. So you use the Fibonacci retracement here. Is Fibonacci retracement something that you use often with Forex?
I used it a lot. I used it a lot. It was one of the first things that I learned when it came to trading. And just when I was learning more about the Fibonacci ratios, it's not just something that's used, just for trading. It's something that you see all across walks of life, universe, the pyramids of Giza, everything. So for whatever divine reason, I don't know, these ratios, these percentages, they work. And when it comes to these three, they're the ones that work. One is the 38, the 61, and the 78.6. That's pretty much what I'm focusing on when it comes to price reversal zones. 50% is kind of like 50% meeting of potentially not. But I feel more comfortable when it reverses, when the retracement goes to the 38, the 61, or the 78.6, right? And for whatever reason, I have a full-blown 100% retracement. That would be the steepest retracement that I would look for to enter a trade. Anything after that, and at that point, the idea is pretty much wrong.
Okay. Also, I wanted to ask: do you use Fibonacci retracement for anything else outside of Forex? I mean, for indices, for example.
Oh, indices as well.
Indices too.
It's the same. It's the same. I'm very technical when it comes to. It's the same story, right? So, the first actual trade that I took within the challenge was a US30 trade. But I'm not gonna lie to you, there was a lot of emotional in that setup. I had profited $4,000, but I didn't hold it the full way just because it was right. There was a couple minutes after the 9:30 opening, and it was moving, it was fluctuating a lot. And so I was able to profit about $4,000 off of that setup. But I didn't take advantage of the full move that happened afterwards, right? But even that move was still based off of a Fibonacci retracement level. Okay. And so pretty much the same. What I just showed you guys right now is pretty much how I approach trading with all different asset classes, whether it's cryptos, whether it's currency pairs, whether it's indices. I look at it the same way. Very technical when it comes to it, right?
All right. Also, you mentioned the psychology, so I wanted just to jump back to it for a moment. In the start of the interview, you said that you journal how you feel before you take the trade, during the position, during the trade, and after you close it. So, is it something that you really do with each trade?
Every trade, yes.
I
have an application. It's not on the laptop. It's usually on my phone. I could even I don't know if you guys could see it, but I'll show you guys right now. It's called Notions. And so Notion allows me to actually, I don't know if you guys can see it, but basically I have my before and afters of all of my trades. I have every reason as to why I took these trades. I have, I show whether I profited, whether it's stop loss. And in Notion, I'm able to have a tab, so I have my, my trading, my back to my studying, and then I have a tab where it's called emotional check. And so in these emotional checks, I have the date of every trade. I have the before, during, and after, and I just write down how do I feel before I take the trade. So once I have the idea pretty much already there, and I know what I'm looking for, and I'm just waiting for more confirmations. That's when I take the time to just take my phone out and just type up just how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling nervous, if I'm feeling anxious, if I'm feeling very confident, if I like the idea, but there's a couple of things off. Then after I take the trade, if I take the trade, of course, I write down how am I feeling during the trade, right? So, is there any doubts? Is everything going well? Am I anxious? Am I nervous? Right? Is my heart beating faster than more than normal? And then after the trade, how am I feeling after? So if it take profit, then of course I'm feeling happy, right? If it hits stop loss, how do I feel? Because that's the most important. That's the most important. If it's stop loss, how do you feel? Are you upset? But it's okay. You really believe in the setup. Are you mad? All of that. And there's times where I catch myself, especially when I first started doing this, times where I catch myself of being upset, and it's kind of like, okay, Xavier, like after a couple of hours, it's okay. Let me just chill out. Let me put some house music. But that's pretty much what I do. But for this setup, it was usually, like I said, so this was about a 1-to-4 risk to reward ratio. And so this setup, it was interesting because it was aside from me back testing a lot, it was one of the times where I was seeing that much money in profit in a trade. And so this setup was the $15,000 setup, and I can go to my account metrics. Yep, GBP USD buy. Oh, the prices are right here. So 881. I can just put that in right here. So 881. Oh yeah, about the same price. Yep. 881. Yeah, I remember. I remember the setup. There's no way that I would forget it. 881, and then yeah, so about 881 was the entry. This was the $15,000 trade, and what I did was a lot of the pullbacks. So a lot of these like small little pullbacks, especially this one right here. I was telling myself, okay, do I close out? Do I hold the trade? And so in me determining all of this, I had to realize, is the market giving me a reason to close this trade? What do I mean by that, right? So for me, it's always going to be about structure. And so I'm looking at the setup, and if I were to even go, oh, never mind. Oops. If I was to go, if I were to go, let me take this off right quick. If I were to go, we had it right real quick back. Little mistake. If I were to go all the way to the 5-minute time frame, the 15-minute time frame, and just look at structure, I'm asking myself, is the market giving me any reason to close this trade? Because if it's not, then why would I close it? February 1st. Where we at? January 31st, 28th.
Yeah, this is something, because a lot of people are always discussing, when to enter the position, what signals to receive before you enter the position. But also what's really important is to know when to exit the position, right? You got to know, why and when to close it. So I'm just thinking because I saw some of your trades, and I saw, for example, some position had very firmly set stop losses and take profit. But on the other hand, there were also positions with no stop loss, no take profit. So I would, that makes me wonder, like, how do you know when to really exit the position if there's no stop loss or take profit?
Yeah, so I like to actively analyze. So hopefully, I believe 5 minutes is the most cool. So I like to actively analyze, right? So usually, if we look at structure from the moment that I enter my trade, we made equal highs with, I always look to the left. We made equal highs with this 5-minute, resistance, right? So I look at that kind of like traffic. Cool, traffic. What happened instantaneously? We got a little pullback, come down, right? And then we had another push back up, and then we came all the way to this point. So we just look at microstructure. So we made a high, higher low, higher high. So we had broken this level of resistance. Cool. So same story. What is this? This is a little retest, right? The lowest that we got at this point was right here. Retesting what? The previous level of resistance on the 5-minute time frame. Cool. Then what? We got a higher high once again. So we're still following structure, right? Then we got another pullback. We go back to the lowest wick. We could say that it retested back into this point right here. For me, this is the way that I looked at it. If it was to break this level right here, right, I'm closing that trade.
Is this something that you do with all trades? You open them and you actively monitor them, what's going on?
I actively monitor. Yeah, I set myself a time from 8 a.m. from 8 a.m. to about 11:30. That's the most that I'll go actively analyzing my trade. Anything after that, if I'm in profit, I set my stop loss into profit, and then I let it rock, or I just let the trade rock out. Give it the stop loss, give it the take profit, and then pretty much roll like that. But in this case scenario, I was actively analyzing this trade, and so At this point, it had hit, where I wanted the price to go, which was about 50 pips in profit. But I knew that if for whatever reason it were to break this point right here or close even below these candles, now I'm looking to close this trade, because if it's going to retrace that steep, it's going to be a minor break of structure in the 1 minute on the 5 minute time frame, and we might even get like a steeper retracement before market has the potential to even come back up, or the probability of it going back up isn't going to be as high as it would be if it just, did what it did, which was bounce off of this level and keep on going back into profit.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I was actively analyzing this trade. There are some trades like you mentioned that I don't put stop losses and take profits because I'm actively analyzing it. And a lot of those trades, they were with US 30, especially with my live account.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that is because I'm still getting a feel for the market, even with the entry point that I actually enter. So I would take a trade in, and then I would set my stop loss first after I took the trade, right? And then from that point on, I'm looking for the take profit to be, the one, obviously I'm aiming for that 1 to 3 risk to reward ratio, but I also want to make sure that my take profit is somewhere that makes sense within the market to test or to break, right? And so that's pretty much how I've been determining it and also actively analyzing the market, right? So everything falls under market structure, but then within that is where, you obviously have the extra confirmations, like, the candle confirmation, the Fibonacci ratios, trend lines, trend lines if I deem it necessary to use one, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you said you like to monitor and manage the position actively in the morning, 10, 11 a.m. your time. So it seems that you're not the type of trader, who would spend 8 hours a day in front of the screen, right?
Nah, man, I have a life, man. I gotta get to the gym. I gotta eat. I can't be long past other day. Like those days of me just being up in London, not sleeping, looking at my phone, and just, I'm not gonna say kind of like panicking, but like when you do that, it's kind of like, I don't know. It was just something about that. It was when I used to do that, it was cool that I was doing that because I'm trading.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was like, man, I don't feel too good. And so
you really had to find, your, how to trade, because I guess a lot of people, but first, if you start trading, of course, you spend, as much time as you can in front of the screen. But, for a lot of people, that is not simply sustainable. So you really had to find, what suits you the best. And it seems that it works for you well.
Yeah, New York session. The only time that I would trade, outside of this time frame is if like I know that there was, news, that was gonna affect the market, and the market was moving really slow. Usually that tends to happen during like FOMC statements or things like that. So I usually wait either before either after news comes out and see if I can take advantage of the movement, or if not, I just don't trade at all. When it comes to like those big events, I usually tend to stay away from them, but if it's a setup beforehand, like before news, like in the morning, cool, I'll take it. But if it's not a setup and maybe there's a setup, after the news comes out, then I'll be open to it. I won't rule it out, but it's a lot of what ifs. It's a lot of things that are outside of my control that pretty much determines if I'm gonna take a trade when news comes out or not.
Okay, so here we are in your account matrix of your FTMO account. So here we see the balance curve that ended up at around $17,500. So we would like to see how it went for you. And is there anything specific that you like to describe in the account matrix, or is there any metric that you actually use the most?
Yeah, so I realized real quick, having something like I've never really had like an account metrics like this. I usually do my own like account win to loss ratio by myself doing the math. So to have something like this was was definitely awesome. And so the main part was obviously just seeing this. You're seeing, how much in profit are you? Just, seeing, if you take a draw, if you take a hit, you take a loss, just refreshing a couple minutes later and then looking at your account metrics, it was like, like it's back down a little bit. So like, even like this, I was like, I remember losing a trade and seeing this, and I was like, I don't want it to go down. I wanted to keep on going up. Of course, everybody does. But seeing how fast it refreshes was definitely really cool. And then from there, just being able to scroll down and look at the trades, look at those check passes, man, it's beautiful. But being seeing this,
I agree with that.
Yeah, seeing this, man. When I had all the green passes, I was like, oh man. But seeing that's awesome.
Yeah,
but
I mean, what is really unusual here is that you never really went below the initial balance, as we can see your max loss is 0, nothing. And also what is very impressive that you did not even leave half of the max daily loss limit. You have a $200,000 account, so the max daily loss in your case was $10,000, and again, you didn't even need the half of it. So that is really impressive.
Risk management is important. I feel like that's the risk management and psychology. I feel like is the two most important things when it comes to a trader. Once you have that in check, I personally feel like there's nothing to stop you. You have your strategy, which you back tested, and you as a trader, as an individual trader, you've proven to yourself that it works. After that, all you need is your risk management plan, and then just making sure that you're emotionally in check and psychologically in check. And so once I realized that, there was no reason for me to doubt myself or anything like that. My strategy works. And so at that point, it's just put it to work. But yeah, risk management is so important to me. Like that's the key. That's what was missing for me when I first started trading, was the risk management aspect of it.
Okay. Yeah. That reminds me. Are you planning on trading your own life account as well? Aside from FTMO account.
Yeah, so when I was as I mentioned earlier, when I was working and saving up my monthly expenses, to live and everything, I set aside money to the side to just throw into my real account. And actually with some of the profits that I'm using from the FTMO, gratefully, I'm gonna be taking a big portion of that and putting it into my live account as well, and just pretty much taking more FTMO challenges and also funding my personal account as well.
Why I'm asking this is because, of course, the risk management rules in the FTMO challenge verification on the FTMO account, obviously the max daily loss and the max loss limits, is it something that you would apply on your own life account as well, right? Like, let's say, setting a max loss that you are allowed to lose in a day, something like that?
Definitely. I mean, that's the key, because, I look at myself as a creature of habit. Humans, we're all creatures of habit. And so once you have these guidelines set for yourself, you have these sort of rules where you're disciplined to follow, where like obviously if you fall outside of these rules, you are able to make that decision and face the consequences or the reward, right? Because it's always going to be a probability. But these exact rules that FTMO has in place is what I would do with my own live account as well. At the end of the day, I'm risking 1% of my account. I'm going for a 1 to 3, 1 to 4 risk to reward ratio. So in a day, what are you looking at? In a week, what are you looking at? In a month, what are you looking at? It's highly doable to be able to grow your account, right? 10% in a month. That's highly possible, right? I passed the challenge. I passed phase 1 in 2 days, right? 2 beautiful setups, right? And as you're stacking up profits, you also have the option to, if you want, straight out of that. What I did, my strategy was I'm going to risk 1% of my account to make 1 to 3 risk to reward, which means 3% gain, right? And so what I did was, after this first day, after that first trade that I took, and that GBP USD setup came around, instead of risking 1%, I risked 1.5%. And so now the gain was much more because I already had profits.
I see. Yeah. So the profit allowed yourself to actually risk a little bit more,
therefore
right? Get you even psychologically in a better position, because you know that you have this buffer, this profit, how much was it again?
On the GU trade, it was 15,000.
Oh, 15,000, yeah.
Yeah, the GU trade. Yep. So just keeping that all in mind is kind of like, you just have to work on what's your risk management plan. For me, it happened to be risking 1% a day, and going for that 3% gain, 4% gain, 5% gain, depending on risk to reward, of course, right? But then, if you have a 60, 70, 80 win to loss ratio, even 50 or 40, you're still gonna end off in profit, right, at the end of the day.
Yeah, this is something that I've noticed as well. You've mentioned, the Forex is pretty much a game of probabilities. If you scroll down a little in the statistics section, we're gonna see that your win ratio is above 50%, while remaining, above 1 with the risk-reward ratio. So this seems to be the route to profits. Keeping the win rate above 50% and also the risk-reward ratio good. So yeah, that's a good one.
I definitely fell out of the average out of my 1 to 3. Having the live, I'm gonna be very honest. Having the live account is different than the challenge, because now you know that like you can make this kind of money, and so I noticed within myself that emotionally or like psychologically, I was acting a little bit different, right? Especially like from the first couple of trades. Once I realized that, I was like, because for example, right, I 24th if I got the account. I believe it was after this first hit where I was like, well, I just lost $4,000 today. And not just like, a challenge $4,000. It's $4,000 that at the end of the month could be what I could be withdrawing. And so once I realized that as well, it was like, okay, Xavier, like, there was certain trades where I acted a little bit out of character in, right? But at the same time, like that's why, like I said, keep myself emotionally in check is super important for me, right? But all of these little like mistakes, like these smaller trades, all of these kind of like little setbacks, it all helped me establish kind of like at the end of the month, where I have to improve on as well.
Okay. So one thing also I saw in your account matrix that caught my attention. If you scroll down a little, in the statistics section.
In the where?
In the statistics section below the trading journal.
Oh, below the trading. Oh,
yes,
below.
Yeah, there we go. The buy and sell ratio, I can see that all of your profits almost were made on shorts, and you had some long positions as well. But sell seems to be the way for you. So what do you think is the reason for this? Why shorting is way more profitable?
I've had that debate with people so many times. I have no idea. Honestly, I feel like it was the time in which I was trading. Everything was just setting up for sells. I was going with the overall trend movements. Everything was telling me shorts. But if I'm gonna be very honest with you, a little bit biased, I think sells just looks just a little bit more spot on, right? Someone just told me, bro, like the same thing that you're looking for sells, just turn it around and look for buys. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. I think it had to do a lot with the time that I was trading, and what was going on within the market. But yeah, man, sells. Right. I wish I could give a more profound answer as to why.
Yeah, I mean, this is the perfect answer actually. Yeah. If it was just this particular month, that's perfectly possible. All right, Xavier. So now the final part. I would like to ask about your future plans. I mean, you bought your first FTMO challenge, you passed it, you received, all the profits. So you seem to have a good future ahead. So tell us a bit more about your plans.
Yeah, for sure. So what I have in the works is I'm gonna take another 200K FTMO challenge and merge them together to get the the full 400K account. That's a big goal of mine. And then from there, I just want to actually, there's a lot of people that, especially around my neighborhood, that they don't really know about trading in the foreign exchange market, or using an MT4, MT5 platform to trade crypto or to trade, indices. So, I definitely want to be able to help people just like me. I'm a kid from the Dominican Republic that came to the U.S. at 3 years old. That parents not forced, but they encouraged to go to what the American dream was. And so, I found something else. I found something else that really works for me, that I really enjoy doing. And so, just as people like certain things, I know that there's people around my neighborhood that could definitely get into this and can definitely change their lives, because an opportunity like this to get funded, to be skillful, that what FTMO is doing for people, not everybody outside is doing that, and not everybody knows what this even is or what it could do for you. So I definitely want to help people just like me, people that aren't like me as well. But I definitely want to go ahead and just be, I'm a role model to a lot of people, and just say, hey, if I could do it, I'm no different than anybody else. I'm not special. I just put a little bit more time into learning something that not everybody else is doing. And so if I could do it, why can't other people do it as well? And so that's pretty much what I aim to do. I just started a YouTube page. You guys can catch me at I am Xavier DL on YouTube. That's also the same as my Instagram. And be in the lookout for some of the content that I'm going to be providing very, very, very soon.
Okay, nice. So previously you've mentioned that you had to perceive the FTMO account in a different way than a live account. So I would like you to elaborate more on that. Then what will be your advice to traders that are just starting the challenge or just got their FTMO account? So would you have any advice for them?
Breathe. Oh my gosh, breathe. You guys have 30 days in your challenge, 60 days for your verification. Breathe. Take your time, right? One loss does not mean the end of the world, and just refine your skills. Make sure that you're walking into this challenge level-headed. Make sure that when you pass phase 1, you're level-headed. Make sure when you pass phase 2, you're level-headed. And most importantly, when you get to that live account, that's when the real challenge begins. The challenge of actually being able to keep the account, to profit from it on a consistent basis, to be able to withdraw on a consistent basis, to make trading, your goal of being able to live off of trading. This is what matters. This is the journey, right? Everyone's journey is different. It could be easy, it could be hard, it could be fast, it could be slow. But this is the part that you're supposed to fall in love with, is the journey, because everyone learns something different from it. And so my biggest advice is just breathe, take your time. No one's rushing you, right? And if for whatever reason you feel rushed, then it probably wasn't the best time to take the challenge. So that's the biggest advice that I can give.
Yeah, I think that's just perfect. Yeah, lovely. Also, you mentioned you're a student. You're gonna turn 21 in a few months.
Yeah, in June 7th, 21, man.
In June, finally able to legally go for a beer. That's nice,
bro. I have it planned, man. I'm going to Florida.
Oh, you already have a plan for the 21st.
Man,
birthday.
I have a plan. Man, listen, I got the withdrawal already. I went out to the mall. I bought myself a computer PC setup. Listen, man, I got June already planned and everything. Me and my friends, we already, the whole shebang.
Nice. So what I wanted to ask, so what are your plans in life when it comes to trading? So I assume you would like to finish the college. And then do you wanna keep trading as something you want to devote just like few hours a day, or you plan to become a full-time trader? Tell us a little bit more.
So I plan to become a full-time trader. You know what I'm saying? If I'm gonna be very honest with you guys, I come from Hispanic heritage. College is something that parents definitely are a big influence with it. Because they didn't get the chance to go to college and everything, and so if I could, not if, but when I graduate, it's gonna be 100% be for them. But at the same time, I'm not ruling out the opportunity of what can I do from here to a year later or a year and a half later, right? And so my plan is definitely to become a full-time trader, and just work with people, and obviously get to the point where I can work with people, right? Build my comfortability, build my credibility up, but definitely work with people and kind of help them go through their journey as well, and kind of be that person that could just walk their hands through it as well, because I didn't really have that. I didn't really have a person that could just walk me through certain things I would ask questions to a lot of people, and sometimes I don't really get the answer that I'm looking for, the answer that I needed. And so I want to be able to be that source for people that they can come to. And so trading full time is definitely the goal. It's been the goal for the last 1.5 to 2 years almost now. So that's the goal.
Okay. Yeah, what a nice to end it. So yeah, the final thing before we go off, Xavier, any last words? Anything you'd like to say?
Man, guys, catch me. My YouTube page is up and running. Once I get my PC, I'm gonna start, making content. But it's I am Xavier DL on YouTube. My Instagram is the same way, and so just be on the lookout. And thank you, FTMO.
And that's FTMO.